All right. Yay. So I'm super excited about our planning party, which we're going to jump into in just a minute. But in case a couple other people join in, a few little things. I'm going to be sending you guys an email out on Monday with some exciting stuff. So the first one is actually quarterly planning party promo, because you guys have all been part of, obviously, the monthly ones over and over. And the quarterly one is how most of you found me, or started, or it was kind of like the starting point of your modern planner journey. So in the email, I've actually included some social graphics, like some square or some story ones. And I would love if you guys could share about the planning party to friends or family or colleagues or coworkers or whatever. And just if someone is kind of seems like they're in a place where you are or have been, where more planning support would be beneficial. I'm really, really excited about it. There's already, including you guys, there's already over 23 people signed up, and it's in a month. Well, it's in three weeks basically. So that's one of the things that I put in the email for you guys. If you want to just tag me on social media when you post something, and I included like the link for you. I have like a special bit.ly, so it's like bit.ly quarterly planning party. So it's like as clear as kind of possible. So that would be really awesome, because you guys are some of the best people to share about it, because you've experienced the planning party. Like, I can only say so many times, hey guys, this is really awesome and it could change your life, before people are like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. But if you guys are able to talk about how the quarterly planning party affected you. So, and my new little slogan for it is 90 minutes to change the next 90 days. Ooh, isn't that good? Isn't that good? So anyway, so that's up on my page. So I'm just excited about it because it's true. 90 minutes to plan, to think ahead could change the next 90 days in what you get accomplished. So anyway, so that's coming out in the email. And then the other thing, clever and punchy. Oh, thank you. I didn't come up with it. My copywriter did. I said, hey, here's my website for the quarterly planning party. It needs a refresh. And so that's the one I was like, this is gold right there. So anyway, the other thing is I've got a survey for you guys, because I would love, like, the first 2 months of the year are almost over. And so I would just love your feedback on the quarterly, because I'm starting to prepare for my next launch and welcoming the new group of people. Now, some of you are signed up for the whole year, so you will not get like an email, but for those of you that are just signed up for the 1 quarter, in like 3 weeks, I'll give you an email with a discount code once the website goes live, because you guys get to save money. Holla, I'm not going to make you pay full price because you're already a quarterly planning person. So anyway, I'll send that out too, but that will be once I get back from vacation. But I would love your feedback on what was really awesome, what could be improved, other things like that. I already have my topics, but just things like that. And then if you could provide some feedback, I'd love some new testimonials from some of you guys to throw on the sales page too. That's because the last time I ran it was in spring of last year. So they're a little bit older. And now that we've kind of changed how I'm doing things, I just would love some current updated testimonials from you guys. So that's coming out in the email. So if you have any comments or questions or anything that you want me to see in the Facebook group on the next 2 weeks, please tag me. So don't just comment, because it's going to be a lot harder for me to find all of that when I get back. So just tag me if you have a question, specifically for the AMA call too, because I get back the day of the AMA call. We land at like midnight the night before. So I just want to be able to quickly and easily find everyone's questions so that I can do the AMA call and be as prepared as possible. So tag me, and that would be awesome. All right, so those are my little updates. So I would love you guys if we can go through and do some real quick. You can share different things. A couple of you replied back to my email, so you could just share that. Either the biggest win, like the biggest planning win you had, or the biggest planning challenge, just really, really quickly. And then after we've done some planning, I do want to talk about our projects a little bit farther along. So if you guys just want to unmute yourself and jump in. Faith, you want to go first?
Sure. I would say my biggest planning win was that I did the Cultivate What Matters sheets. And it was a great like supplement to what we've already been doing and integrating. So yeah, that was a huge win for me.
Yay, that's so awesome. Did you do your tending list for the month?
Which one?
The tending list? It looks like this. Mine is not updated this week yet. Like, is that what you did?
No, I did that in my journal. So this month I'm going to transition to that.
Yeah. Nice. I really do love power sheets because they fit really well. Like it's not the same as everything that I teach, but it's a good like partnership. That's why I love it so much, because not everything else works so well together. So nice. Great win. Thank you. Haley, do you want to share a win or a challenge?
Sure. I would say this month was challenging for me, but I feel like it's really going to set up nicely for next month, because next month is priorities, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So what I found this month was challenging with what I had planned for February was important, but it wasn't urgent. And so a lot of things that came up were urgent. So the time that I had planned to do my February projects, and they were overlooked. And I realized a lot of it is because I'm very people focused. So if someone needs me, I want to be there for them. So the environment that I work in is, I'm not like in a cubicle by myself. So it's very open. And so I had a lot of interruptions that happened, and people were like, Kate, let's go. And it's hard for me to say, no, sorry, that's not a priority right now. So I found that what I think will work best next month is when I'm doing my February project and I have that hour blocked out for the week, I'm going to put a timer on my phone 10 minutes before so that I can take myself away so I'm not disturbed, so I can make sure that hour is what it's planned to be.
Yeah, that's great. I love that when you said that in your email, because this is the beautiful thing about doing this over and over again. Because somebody actually asked me, they're like, would someone be in the quarterly for a year, like more than a year? Because I feel like once they've done all 12 topics, like they wouldn't need to come back. And I'm like, some people totally, if they get it and a year is all they need. But I'm like, it's the accountability and the framework of just learning, reflecting, being accountable, constantly improving. Like, I've been doing this for years and I still am learning and getting better all the time. So I'm like, no, this is something we can continually do, because life shifts and adjusts, and we have to redo our priorities. So like if you're only prioritizing once a year, that's a challenge. That's a problem. You know what I mean? Like we need to be doing it more than that. And I only cover it once a year. So I'm like, anyway, so I love that, because that's the beauty of it, is that we're causing ourselves to constantly think, evaluate, go, what didn't work? Okay, so how am I going to change that for next month? And so you've already got one of your questions answered from the reflection section.
If you have any more ideas, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah. Well, and in next month with priorities, we're going to be talking about this, but here's the thing. It's okay if at the beginning of your journey, urgent is winning a lot more than important. Like, it is totally okay. Because the bottom line is that until we get that under control and we catch up on all the urgent stuff, then we're able to think farther ahead. So don't feel bad or guilty like you're doing something wrong if there's always urgent stuff coming up. Just be aware and intentional about also doing the important stuff, building it in. And as time goes, you'll have more and more time for the important. Does that make sense? Yeah. And Brittany commented in the chat. She said, totally identify with what Haley shared. Boundaries are so important to establish. P.S. Boundaries are the first topic in the next quarter. We're going to be talking all about boundaries, and it's going to be so good. Nigan's doing her fist pump. She's already in. So she's like, I'm ready. Bring it on. I need help. We all need help with boundaries. Let me just say. Okay. Irene, do you want to share either a planning win or a planning challenge from the month of February? I don't know if there's anyone in your store. If you can, unmute yourself.
Nope, I can.
Yay!
I had a little crazy moment earlier, but I'm good now. So there were both. The planning was a real eye-opener, realizing I haven't really planned a lot of things on paper. I usually do it mental planning, and then I forget because I'm old. And then
we all forget. Let's just be honest. If we all just mental planned, we wouldn't remember. We can use any excuse we want. Baby brain, getting older. But the bottom, we just need to write things down.
Yes, exactly. So that was really good. And I really started planning out some days and that where I actually had my calendar, Google Calendar, and it was all full with things. And I just readjusted during the day things moved on. And I tried to 2 times because I hadn't done that last month for my taxes, and it took 2 or 3 times the amount of time. And then challenges this month. Well, we've been sick. There's tons of snow. We just got dumped on last night, and there's supposed to be another 10 centimeters tomorrow.
This is why I'm leaving the country.
And I'm really tired of this. So
Yeah.
it's just getting depressed about it. And my hubby Mark, he hurt his back. So last week, and then the long weekend. So normally I spend my Mondays at the store, but that kind of got thrown. So that's the whole day. And then another time he was away. And we're down to one vehicle. So
yeah, totally.
yeah.
And this is the thing.
And
Kiana,
it's not like I can take the bus,
Yeah, I hear you. Kiana replied back to my email, and she just mentioned in the chat that she can't chat. So Kiana, if you ever want to chime in, just pop something in the chat and we'll try to keep an eye on it. And she mentioned the same thing just about life happening. And that is why I always say life does not go as planned. We create our plan and we do what we can. But the reason why we 2X everything is to help account for life happening. And it doesn't always work. Right? Like the readjusting and the things, sometimes it just throws us right off, and it's totally okay. Like life is life. We have to do what we have to do and, honor our commitments and all of that. So it's just about getting back, readjusting, refocusing as much as we can. And that's why we do these every month, right? So it's like that fresh slate to start with. So, okay, Brittany, you're in the chat, and so is Kiana. If you guys want to share a planning win or a planning challenge from the last month in the chat, that would be awesome. And then I can share that with everybody. And then what I'd love us to do is, Kiana, I had to say no super hard to a number of people just to try to stay on track. You mentioned that in your email. Saying no to people can be so hard, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in boundaries. Because if you have always said yes to people when they've asked for things, and like you've been that support, and they've kind of developed a bit of like a crutch or a dependency on you when you have to say no for your own health and your own sanity, that can cause a lot of challenges. So my recommendation, like when I first started really saying no and backing off stuff, I was plagued with so much guilt. Like, guys, I can't even tell you how guilty I felt for like, just for saying no to things, for leaving stuff, leaving early, for just not attending events. Like the guilt was so heavy. And what I had to remember is like, I'm making this decision for me and my health. So I can't feel guilty about putting myself first. Now, if it was in a really selfish way, we all get the difference, right? Between just being a selfish person that doesn't care about others and like trying to learn how to take care of ourselves and put ourselves first. So we all get the difference there. I don't think any of you would think that those are the same. And so that guilt, so just learning like, why am I so guilty about putting myself first and making time for me and like trying to be healthy and get on top of stuff so I'm less stressed? Why am I carrying around extra stress and guilt about trying to get rid of my stress? Like this just does, if we actually think through the process, it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. And so I would just encourage you, if for any of you, in addition to Kiana, are feeling that, just remember to let it go. You are only responsible for you and your life and how you live. You can't be responsible for other people. So sometimes we just have to let that go. And I understand that situations can be really, really challenging. So I don't want to underestimate that. Brittany, February has been moving forward, but challenged by other people's emergencies. I'm off schedule and waiting to reschedule. Totally. And that will happen. Like we said at the beginning, life happens, we get off track, and it is totally okay. We just have to pick up where we left off and see what we can pull together. All right. So let's do our reflection quick. So I will pop our questions in the chat for you guys. Those are the questions. So I will also say them for those of you that are watching the replay. And remember, you're going to take the next few minutes and answer whatever of these questions feel most important to you right now. Don't feel like you need to go down them in order. Glance through and pick the ones that really are good for you. So what am I grateful for? What were some highlights? What did I learn about myself, others, family? Were there any major milestones? And if so, what did I do to celebrate or record? Just saying, we skipped the celebration part. Way too easy. What do I need to adjust? What do I need to stop? What do I need to start? What part of the planning process went well and what part was challenging? So we kind of talked through those ones already. But so the action is to answer some of those questions. If you're watching the replay, I'm going to pause so you can just pause as well. And I'll set a timer for about 4 minutes and then we'll come back. All right. How is everybody doing? Pretty good? You had some time to answer the questions. I've been feeling like 4 minutes is actually a really good length for that. I haven't had to change it too much. I always update my times as we go, and that one stayed consistent. Oh, thank you, Brittany, for sharing. One of the things that you need to start is creating a habit of a morning review of your plan, like every day, reviewing your stuff. That's really great. One of the things that I said I need to start going to bed earlier because I need to adjust my morning routine. Like it just is not, I don't know, the whole baby trying to get as much sleep as I can, but I like being up and at least dressed before she wakes up because it just helps me feel so much more on top of things. So yeah, I definitely need to do that. I think I just so automatically plan every day when I sit down and I have it that I don't think about that as being part of my morning routine, but I love it, guys. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so this is what I want us to do. We're just going to take like 3 minutes because the second stage is priorities, right? So this is why these monthly planning parties are so valuable because middle of February, which we've just kind of hit that mark, is actually the point where most people have dropped entirely their goals and vision for the year. If they made any sort of resolution or goal, it's basically done. For like at least 75% of the population, they will no longer look at them for the rest of the year. But I make you do it every month. So get out your priorities. I want you to look at your word for the year, okay? The vision statements that you created, those key areas that you looked at, that you said, these are important to me in 2018. Where are they? Don't let them collect dust. If it's really important, which you said it was at the beginning of the year, then we have to keep it important because if it's not visible, right, like out of sight, out of mind, this is why it's so important to have like our main stuff. And I'm talking to myself right now because I just realized I usually put like a summary on my board and I don't have one yet. So that's what I'm going to work on during the next few minutes is actually making my priorities and my areas visible because I want to see them every time I sit at my desk and not just have them in my power sheets. So I want you to review word for the year, vision statements, the areas of focus, and just look at it. Remind yourself of why this is important. Okay, so just 3 minutes, just take a couple minutes and reflect. So good. All right. So I love what Kiana put in the comments, guys. So I did this crazy, beautiful budget in the beginning of the month. Now with fixing the roof, I have to redo it, which wasn't on my list until you said, what are your goals for the year? One was budgeting and I'd totally forgotten about it. Love it. This is why, like, I will never stop asking you this question ever because this is how we actually move things forward in intentionality. So I would love if someone wants to share something like what Kiana said, where you were like, oh yeah, that was one of my priorities. Or if you were pleasantly surprised, like, I am working on this. This is part of my life now. Because Haley, you commented on the High Five Friday. Do you want to share about that real quick?
Sure. That's actually one of my aha moments, that reading the High Five and going, oh yeah, it doesn't have to just be about my personal plan, because my husband and I have one together. We did like a couple's goal for power sheets. There's one for couples. So I don't know if I told anyone, but we did that in beginning of January. And so one of our big ones was health. And so realizing that we've created this schedule for us that we've kept to about meal planning and working out. And it's something that actually was fairly non-existent. I used to be a fitness instructor, so I was pretty motivated, again, for other people, I think. So doing it for myself and doing it for us and realizing that we are making progress, that was like an aha moment for me today.
Yay, that's so good. I love it. Did anybody else have an aha or an uh-oh? That's what we could call them. Any ahas or uh-ohs? Either you can post in the comments or you can just unmute yourself and jump in. Whatever works. And then we're going to move on if nobody's got anything else to share. By the way, I'm sorry I forgot to mute myself during that last pause. I thought I was being like all quiet, and I found a piece of paper. I found gold paper, and I'm like, I'm going to just use this and like write out my vision statements and stick them up on my wall nice and big. So anyway, that's what I did. It's as far as I got. All right, sweet. Megan, go for it. Yes, please.
One that worked for just a kind of a sort of an aha moment was that one of my things going into the year was planning more for recreation, because I think I get like caught up in just getting stuff done that I don't really plan out a whole lot of that kind of stuff. So I had a plan with some friends. We're going to Hawaii later this year, and we went and we found tickets for super cheap, and it was a really like quick buy them like right now moment, which ordinarily would have put me into like a panic because it just taking that leap, but because it had been on my list and because I'd been working towards that, like I looked at my plan and my budget and was like, oh, okay, cool, like I can buy these tickets right now because it's already in place to be able to do that. And so that was nice.
Yay! She's also, by the way, guys, going to the same island that I am going to tomorrow. So all of my faves, Megan's getting a little list. Anyway, that's so good. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Let's move on to the planning piece. But what I want to do is remember this month, our theme is project planning and focusing on that. So what I would love for you guys to do, for Kiana and Brittany, if you can pop this in the chat, I want to know what is the project that you chose, and give me a current summary. Where are you at with that? How is the execution going? If you have a specific challenge that you're finding, because this week you should be starting to execute. Right? So we had our first couple weeks to pick our project, create our plan, and now it's about like we have a 6-week window because the goal is to get this done, at least this step of the project that you've chosen, to get it done by the end of March. So just give us a bit of a status report. What is your project, and a bit of a status report. And if Kiana and Brittany, you guys want to do that in the chat, and then everybody else, let's just go do that through that quickly, because as you're planning and as we're working on our March stuff, we need to make sure that this project is in our plan and then later is in our schedule. Because if it's not going to happen. So Faith, I love how emphatically you are just nodding away over there. So do you want to share your project?
Yeah, so my project was getting a job for this quarter, and I'm kind of at a weird place because basically I have to restart the process now because the job I really wanted didn't get. I went through the interview process, and like that was it, like, so there was like the applications, and then there was like 2 interviews, and there was like a reception, and then so it was like a very long process, and I like had really invested because I really thought I was going to get that job, and then I didn't get it. So kind of now I have to go back to the brainstorming, like finding new applications, researching, writing the applications, going through interviews. So I don't know, I feel like I'm in a weird place now because I kind of have to restart.
Yeah, but that's okay. So what I would encourage you to do, I mean, look at the other things going on in March, but if that's the most important thing for you to do, create a new plan for that project and for looking for a job, and try to timeline yourself out. And it's a really good reminder for all of us, right? Especially in a job situation, but even in investing or whatever, is it's like, if we put so much effort in one thing, if we never have that backup, then we're stuck, right? So if part of your plan had been follow through with this, but continue to look and apply for other positions, then maybe you wouldn't feel quite as behind, right? So I'd include that on your next plan. You know what I mean? Like, even once you start the interview process, don't let go of the other things in that process. So I'm going to read Kiana's, and then we can have somebody else share. She's working on her thesis paper. Honestly, you guys, in thesis papers, this is all I have to say. I love learning, but I'm not like I don't love the really academic part of it. I just like learning. So when you have to write your papers a certain way and have all your footnotes and like that, I just am like, really, guys? Anyway, so I have huge props for you guys. So she's only behind a week, which, can I just say, I'm thoroughly impressed with that. All the steps are in Trello. Your first draft's going to be done by Sunday, which is really great. Oh yes, your other project was your portfolio. Steps are planned out, done. Sweet. Kiana, you're doing so good. We're just all going to give you a round of applause right now. This is how you do a round of applause. Sorry, so cheesy, guys. Okay. Okay. Right. Yes. Megan is in her workplace, which is why she can't say this out loud. So her project, can I do that? You're listening on your earbuds, right? Okay. Shoot. All of a sudden I was like, can I say this out loud? Anyway, so she is applying for some college teaching positions, is her big project. And so she's working on it, updating her resume, cover letters, and stuff like that. So yeah, so good. All these applications in by the end of March. Love it. Irene, Haley, do either of you want to share about your project?
So my project is my ongoing project of my Etsy shop.
Yes, your Etsy shop.
And I had an Etsy shop before. I don't know why I'm finding it so difficult this time. I think because I have a lot riding on it. I need it to be really successful. But I did get my stuff down in Trello and actually on paper, and I did work on it. So I planned I'd need about 8 hours a week to get what I need done, and I put those in the calendar. And I actually worked on it the other day. It's Wednesday. So
That's so good.
I have been working on it. Yeah. So I started.
And here's my recommendation for any of you that are like, okay, I think I need 8 hours a week to work on this thing in order to get it done by a certain date. Put more than that in your schedule. Mm-hmm. Because life. How many times have we talked about that on this call alone? Right? So if you know you need 8 hours, but if you have the possibility for interruption in those 8 hours, if something else might cut them up, maybe you need to schedule 10 or 12 hours to guarantee that you'll have the 8 that you need to get that project done. Does that make sense? That's just a recommendation in the scheduling piece, which we're not there yet, but yeah. So good.
I'm really lucky because we're down to one vehicle. So I actually go to my store at 7:30 in the morning. I don't open till 11. And so I have all that time, and that's where I'm scheduling the time. And then on Monday, I'm closed, but I go to the store again at 7:30 and I stay there till 4:30. And that's when I get my planning for the week done, and I schedule some time. So it's pretty uninterrupted. So I'm pretty...
That's great. That's a great way to do it. Like, see, you're finding ways to, even though you only have one vehicle, to get creative and help you move things ahead. So I love it. I love it. Brittany said she's still working through her website project, which was her February kind of like main focus. And then March is the home office. So a smaller project, but still great. Honestly, my home office, guys, I can't even. It's not good because anytime I'm in here, I am working, right? Like I come down, if I've got childcare or she is sleeping, I just come, I sit at my computer and I work. So I have not touched the organizational side of my office since before she was born. And so it is a little bit disastrous. Haley, what is your project that you're working on?
Mine changed because I had a pretty big dream of a fundraiser that I wanted to create and execute, but I realized it's not possible right now because we have to do the whole action and execution and all of that, and realizing how many other things are taking up time. So it's a fairy tale princess ball, like a daddy-daughter. Yeah, I'm so excited. I feel like I have so many connections, and I already had like ideas, and I was starting to make my plan. But then I realized right now what I need to focus on is something that I can achieve, so I can see that I can go through this process, I can be successful, and then I can take it on a bigger scale. I just think that's how I would work best. So I actually took my number one priority from February that I'm not doing very well on, and I changed it into my project plan. So I'm going to make sure that it's super comprehensive, and that's the newsletter that I've been wanting to do. Because I realized I think I had 6 different things that you asked us to be in order from last month, and 2 to 6, great. Number 1, not so much. How did that happen? So yeah, so I changed it into that, and so knowing that I can have something, I can actually plan out during this time for the next 3 that I'd like to do, and then I feel like it will just make it more comprehensive if I have it as my project plan. Yeah, and it's simple, but I think it'll be great.
Yeah, that's so good. Because here's the thing, like even one of the things that I want to do right now is I'm already like having these ideas for doing a mastermind version of the quarterly, where I only take a small group of people, but then we also do in-person events like twice a year to actually plan our year and like do stuff like that together. And I really want to do that. But I'm just like, and I was like, oh, I can totally launch this to start for 2019. And then as I was like creating my little schedule, I was like, well, that would mean I'd have to open up registration for it in like when I do my, like it would have to be part of Q4. Like someone would have to sign up then for it, because we do our planning for the year like we do our in-person event in November. And I was like, I don't know that I can pull that off, but I want to do it so bad, right? And so sometimes we just have to say, you know what, like it's okay, this can go off. So I love that you noticed that. Let me speak to the one priority thing really quick before we jump into our planning, because here's what's happened. We do procrastinate. We're really good at procrastinating. A lot of times we procrastinate on the things that are vague. Okay? So we procrastinate on it because we're not sure what our next steps are. What we've written down is very vague and big picture. So we don't know how to start. So because I have this thing, but I don't know where to start, then we keep pushing it off. So here is my advice to you. Eat your frog. Have you ever heard that before? Your frog is, in the time management world, there's this phrase called eat your frog. And so I don't agree with the time management world concept because we can't manage time. So stop calling it that. But anyway, that is another topic for another day. But there are tons of great things like that. So it's frogs. Eat your frog. So the frog is that thing that you are most likely to procrastinate on. So sometimes it's a small thing. You're like, oh, that's small. I can get it done, so that I'll just do it later. But a lot of times it's like this big thing that we never do because we're not sure how to start. And so the concept or the phrase is eat your frog or eat your frog first. So whatever it is that you're noticing that you keep procrastinating on, schedule to do it first. Either first thing in the day or first thing on the weekend or first thing when you get home, whenever that is. And don't give yourself any excuses, because if you'll take the time and if you'll actually eat your frog and make progress on that, you will be amazed at how much more productive you are. And sometimes what you need to do is just say, I'm going to eat my frog. And so Haley, for you keep procrastinating the newsletter. So for something like that, put newsletter in your calendar for first thing in the morning, but then also write down what you're going to do. Don't just put newsletter in your calendar, because you're going to find a way to get out of it. So what you have to do is say newsletter and then say, I'm going to make a list. All I'm going to do tomorrow is make a list of all the things and work on your plan. Not creating content, just starting the plan. right? And then once you've got that, then it's way easier to put stuff into your schedule, because so oftentimes we have these big projects and we're like, yeah, I'm going to work on my website. So we put website in our calendar, but there's no plan for it. We have none of the steps written out. So then of course we don't actually know what to do, and we keep pushing those things off because there's no plan. So that's one of the reasons why plans are so critical, because they actually get us, we know how to start now. And that is one of the biggest reasons why we procrastinate, is because we don't know how to start. So remove that. So we're going to plan now. You guys, I'm going to give you guys are solid. We've been doing this for a long time. So I'm just going to give you 10 minutes. Okay. And I want you to work on your plan for the month of March. Think about your project that you just talked about, but also think about what are the other things that you have to move forward? What have you not given yourself a plan for and you keep procrastinating on? Like, what are the things that you actually need to plan? Make a list, maybe pick your top 3 and see how far you can get in those. Okay. And if you have any questions, of course, I'll throw this action in the chat just in case you forget what we're doing. And then we'll get started. Brittany's asking, can I mention a few books, blogs, or podcasts you use to keep you efficient with planning? Can you clarify, Brittany, in the chat? You just mean like resources of things that I've read in the past that have some good tips and tricks in them? I think that's what you would mean. And so I can definitely do some of that research now. If you clarify, I'll do that during the planning time. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes. All right, so that was 10 minutes. How is everyone doing? Good? Do we feel like we made progress on our plan? Like we made a good headway for March? Like, okay, I feel like I can do this. I've got a bit of a system. I know kind of what I'm looking at. Yes? Okay, I see some hesitant head nodding as well. Let's continue, and then if we have more time at the end, we can jump into it. So that's the planning piece. Now what we're going to do is the scheduling piece. So we break this into 2 different pieces, right? So the first time I'm going to give you some time. I want you to look at what you just planned, the bigger project stuff, get that in your schedule. Okay? Create action, like put deadlines, block time to actually work on it, put that in your schedule. Okay? So I'm going to give you about 4 minutes to do that. And then we'll come back. Okay? So let's put that project in your calendar. All right, so how did the scheduling piece go? How are we doing with putting that, those main projects into our calendar? I'm going to pop to the comments for a couple minutes. Brittany mentioned about the planning piece, that it was a really good exercise and helped her focus on the pieces that she can just move to the back burner. And Megan, I do love what you said. Something that you found to be helpful is that you plan out the big things for the month, and then you plan out the details in like 2-week chunks, like exactly what workout and things like that you're going to do, meal planning and stuff. So I would have a very similar perspective. I plan out my whole month in terms of like blocks of time. And then what I do is every week I look at my week and I edit all the little details. And it's like, okay, what is the meal plan this week? Does this work for me to get groceries? Like, even though I have my plan, sometimes that plan needs to get edited a little bit. So I think that's really good. And then Brittany also asked, any tips for identifying when you should plow through and when you should delegate? So I would say watch the replay from last week's workshop, how to plan your first hire. No, I think in order to answer that as in like a short, succinct way, you want to look at what are the things, and I'm going to give you guys this worksheet next month with priorities, the 4D filter. So it's like, what can you delete, which is, Brittany, kind of what you said, or defer. What can you defer is another one of the categories. So what can get pushed off, and it will be okay if it doesn't happen in the time frame you're thinking. Because a lot of the times when we look at our month, and this is just something to remember, is it's like, I want to do all of this in 1 month. But the expectation of doing all of that can sometimes be a lot. So it's like, okay, what can I push off to a future month? And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And then if you get everything done on your list, then go to your backup list. Like, there's not a problem with having a backup list if you get everything done, but keep your initial list of like, this is what needs to get done shorter. And or just prioritize everything and have it in order. So I actually did that for February in Trello, because I only had 3 weeks in February as opposed to my usual 4. So in my current Trello board where I do all my work, I had all my big projects. I didn't have anything under them. There were no checklists or tasks or anything. I just created a card for each project and I put it in the order I needed to get it done. And then I just worked through them like that, plugged away. And I had a list that said must get done before vacation and would like to get done before vacation. So my must had to all get done before I could get to any of my would like tos. I didn't get to any would like tos, just so y'all know. There's still 2 things sitting on my must get done, but they were like the last priority. And it's okay if I do it when I get home. It just means the first few days are going to be a little busier than I was hoping. So it's the deferring is really helpful. Think about that first. And then a task that you can delegate, you want to think about, can someone do this like a little bit worse than you, but to a satisfactory level? Because a lot of times with delegating, it's like, can someone do this as good as me or better? That's the wrong question to ask. Okay? Like, if you've got kids, they're not going to do as good of a job unloading the dishwasher, but can they do it? Yes. So get them to help you. They're not going to be able to do it better than you. So some things, yes, if I was going to delegate the task of creating graphics, which I do because, guys, it would be horrible. They need to be able to do it better than me, right? But not everything. I could have someone on my team that helps edit emails and schedule emails and like format stuff. They just need to be able to catch the details, look at, like, they don't have to be a copywriter to be able to do some of those admin things. So I would just say to be careful of the expectations you have on people that you're delegating. But if someone can do the same task at a similar level as you with a little bit of training, delegate it. Now, I'm not one to talk right now because I'm in a transition period. And so my assistant quit right before Christmas. And so I've just been too busy with all of my content. Like, I just can't even think about the hiring process because that I know how long and how thorough I need to be in order to get the right fit. And I just don't have the time for that right now. So there's things that I'm neglecting in my business. There's things that I'm doing that are taking me a lot longer than they take someone else. But I want to get my system and get my back end organized so that I know what I would hire for. And I'm starting to create my list. Okay, I don't need them to do everything that this person did. I can switch it up a little bit. And maybe I don't need an assistant. Maybe I need to bring someone else onto my team that can actually interact with my community more. Like, there's different things. So always just take your time with that. And the easiest way to train someone to do it is when you're doing something, do a screen record of you doing it. Just do that and then throw it in a folder. And then suddenly you have a training library of all of these things. So that's especially a great way if you're ever replacing yourself or hiring for your own job, or if you are in the situation where you're helping someone with that position, or if you're bringing like new part-time staff into your store like Irene has, right? Like these situations, doing as much. You can type out instructions and those are great. However, a video with instructions is way better because if someone can actually see what you're doing on the computer, or even sometimes you just talking it out rather than just having it written out, it's way easier for you to explain because you're like, okay, so you go to this door, it's the red door. And then once you've opened it, you're going to use the key that's labeled da-da-da-da-da. And then this is how you're going to set the alarm. And you know what I mean? Like you walk somebody through like unlocking the building and undoing the alarm, but you say it rather than just typing it. And then you also type it, right? But sometimes people are auditory. So those are just some tips for delegating. I don't know if I answered your question really, Brittany. I kind of went on a little tangent, but plow through ideally in our businesses, if we're specifically talking businesses, or in our homes, we should be doing the income generating tasks or the things that no one else can do. So in my personal life, I have delegated childcare to support my business. So for 2 days a week, someone comes into my home and they look after my daughter. They are not me. They don't parent her the same way I would. In fact, they don't parent her at all. They're just a friend who plays with her, has some discipline, you know what I mean? But it's not the same as me. But their role is to help her nap, to keep her fed. I'm not expecting them to do everything the same way that I would, because that's unrealistic. But I needed help. So in the past, I have delegated cleaning my house to someone. So I think a lot of times we look at delegating and we only look at the business side of things, like what could we delegate for our business? But I think we also really need to look at our personal life. What could we delegate in our personal life? You know, I'm kind of picky when it comes to grocery shopping. Me and online are getting more and more friendly, but some people have like delegated their grocery shopping because they do click and collect at Sears. So they do it all from home and then they go and pick it up. That is delegating something, right? So for me, I only have the car 2 days a week. I kind of want to get out and I want an excuse to leave the house. So if I always did that, then I'm like, well, what would I do? So I'm working through how can I delegate and do that something a little bit more. Delegate copywriting, that is one thing I do have. So that's a position that I filled for January, and I send projects over because I am not a fast writer. I can talk and share like this way better, but writing something, emails, and guys, I have 10 emails scheduled to go out over the next 3 weeks. You know how long it took me to do that? A long time. I've held on to it because I can, but it's just holding me up. Too many creative projects. Yeah, that's the one thing I found. When it's really restricting me from doing what I love, it's time to delegate. And so I'm starting to feel that, but I needed to get comfortable being back in the quarterly, creating my content, getting back in the flow, because that's a shift for me from coming back from mat leave. So I will bring somebody in. Kiana, you've been delegating grocery shopping. There you go. And it does free up time. It really does. And so I do a lot of stuff online, but not everything. But there's a new thing called Instacart. It's not necessarily new where you guys are, but it's new to KW, where instead of ordering, because like Walmart is so weird when you order like their fresh stuff, you just order it and then they tell you when it's ready and I don't know. It's like a weird system. It's not like you can pick a time when you're coming. And so I was like, I like Instacart because somebody else, a third party, goes and does your shopping and delivers it to your house. And so you don't even have to go pick it up. So I'm like, that intrigues me. Because if I still have to go pick it up, but if I've got the car seats and the strollers, I don't have any more room in my car than I did if I was going to the store. So why not just go in? So I can pick, anyway. Delegating. Okay, we're going to move on to the second part of scheduling, okay? Which is going through your calendar chronologically. Looking at events, what you need to bring. Is everything on both calendars if you have a hard copy and a soft copy? Is everything in that should be in? Are there any events that you're like, ooh, or social things that you would like to do? Okay, so a chronological through the month. So we'll do 5 minutes, and then I want to end with a little bit of conversation and Q&A. And I've got a list of stuff for you, Brittany. So I think I've got about a dozen different like book and people recommendations. So I will, when we come back in 5. All right. So I would love to know if you guys want to just throw in the chat, what is the date that you got up to? How far did you get? Oh, sorry. Little yawn. So let me know how far into March you got with your planning. 5th. It's okay, Megan. Haley, ooh, 18th. Nice. Irene, 9th. Faith, 16th. Oh, your online and hard copy didn't match. This is why we do it. Because there's nothing scarier than realizing, oh, that's on this calendar. It's not on that one. Oops, I would have totally missed that. So guys, I have to admit, I got to the end of the month, but I started on the 12th. Because I'm on vacation until then. So I was like, eh. Oh, Irene noticed a discrepancy too. See, this is why we do it. Okay, so everyone grab your schedules, your calendars right now. In the next 5 days, you need to find a time when you are going to finish your March plan. So that means finish going through your schedule, finish all the little, like if you didn't get your project totally into your calendar, this is why I recommend that you bring a notebook, right? So you should have a little list of the things that you still need to finish. And if you don't, then while you're opening your calendar and putting it in, put your list in there. Like finish going through the March schedule, complete my project plan for whatever it is that you need to finish up. So make sure you put that in. So everyone open your calendar, do this right now while I talk. And when you have your time booked to finish your March plan, I want you to say done in the chat. And then we are going to look at a couple little extra things before we wrap up. I have a few questions for you, and then I also am going to share some resources. All right, Faith is done. Irene is done. I did schedule at the time you're volunteering all through April. Yeah, totally. Sometimes we see something and we're like, oh, I should have that in my schedule the whole time. Like earlier today, I went through and I blocked all of my March and April dates for the nanny and made sure all my times were consistent with what I'd given her, right? So like sometimes we do this in little pieces. Okay, so a few of you are done, not all of you. Oh, Haley, there we go. Okay, so you guys have this in your calendar. Perfect. Okay. So now what we're going to do. So I have some resource recommendations. Now, here's something that I was thinking about that I would love your feedback on. So if you're watching the replay, feel free to comment in the post below this video. I guess mainly for you guys that are live. One of the things that I've been thinking about is having a book for every quarter that supports the topics that we're talking about, like a book that's kind of closest to the quarter that I think supports that, and just saying it as, hey, this is a book that I suggest that fits really well with the themes. If you'd like to read it, you can, but like kind of me doing the work of finding a book that kind of fits with what we're working on. So to give you an example, Q2, the next 3 months, we're talking about boundaries, living intentionally, and schedule. So those are our 3 kind of topics. And so if people have not read Essentialism, that's the book I would recommend because it fits really well with all 3 of those things. So for instance, Q3, I think we talk about routines and habits. So I would probably pick a book that supports that. So anyway, and then in the Facebook group, maybe 1 day a week for that whole quarter, it could be like, hey, have you read anything? What have you read recently around this book that you found interesting? So not like, I wouldn't do it like in the summer. If any of you were in my Facebook group, we did an official like book club where every Wednesday I had thoughts on the book. Like it wouldn't be scheduled like that. It would just be, here's a book, and I'd schedule some prompts in the Facebook group just to encourage us to talk about it. But I wouldn't have like a schedule, like week by week reading this chapter, just because we all have lives and it looks differently. So it's like, if people want to read it, they can. If not, it's totally optional. So Irene loves it, and then we can discuss it. Yep. Megan's in. So it's at least an idea to have it as something, as an extra. Okay. Ooh, especially if the books had audio versions. You know what? That's a good point. I'm just gonna copy that feedback and throw it in there. Okay. The other thing that I would love your input on is I was thinking of a way, because you guys have participated. So I'm sure that you have seen email marketing from other people where it's like this person is a business owner, but they're promoting someone else's course or book or something because they're an affiliate. So do you guys all understand kind of like the affiliate concept? So you get paid a small commission. Oh, no worries. Thank you, Brittany, for joining in. You get paid a small commission for like promoting someone else's thing, but usually you only do that if it's something you've done and participated in. And that's how the only way that I do things is if it's something I've actually done. And so I was thinking about this and I was like, wait, I should do some sort of affiliate program for current participants in the quarterly. Because if someone that you know joins the quarterly, then there should be some sort of benefit to you for that. So I've been thinking and pondering this and wondering, now this isn't an expensive program. Like, let's be honest, it's $95 for 3 months. So it's not really expensive. And I didn't know if monetary value would actually be the best way to do it, or if it's like time with me was the other way I was looking at it. Because, oh, Kiana's like, you. So I've been tossing this around. Haley says you too, because I could do something like kind of minimal where it's like, if you refer someone and they sign up because of you and they join the program, I could give you $10 off your next registration or $20 off, but like you already get a discount because you're an alumni, like it's already cheaper for you. So maybe it's like every person is like 15 minutes. And so say 2 people join, then you would get a 30-minute free call with me. Does that make sense? I don't know if those, I just pulled those numbers out of my head. I hadn't actually thought that through, but you guys love it. Okay. So what do you think is like a good value? You can unmute yourself and just talk if you want to, or you can pop it in the chat. Like I just pulled out one person is like 15 minutes, but should it be 30 minutes? What do you guys think?
I would say 30 minutes is more of an incentive.
It is more
to want to, maybe.
True.
And then you could also possibly do it depending on what type of program that they enroll into, right? Because there's 2 different options. Sometimes you have 3.
That is true. Actually, I like that. So if someone just enrolls for the quarter, the basic program, then it would be like a 30-minute. But if someone enrolls in the premium one where they actually are getting a one-on-one call, then maybe you get like an hour for that.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool.
Okay. Interesting. I will think about it, and basically I will let you know in like 3 weeks when the doors open. But just so you know, I will track this, and in my next welcome survey, it will say, how did you hear about the quarterly? If someone specific referred you, please list their name. That way I can track it. So if someone's interested, make sure that they list your name, because I'm going to start tracking it, even if I don't have the back end totally figured out. Okay, I love it. This is why I wanted to ask you guys. And I love jumping on calls, so I think that's really awesome. Okay, now Brittany had to go, so you know what I'm going to do? I can post this in the chat, but I'm also going to post this. I'll post it in the group, like when I post the replay. So I just posted a really long list of stuff. I haven't done as much reading and research and stuff since Em was born as I used to. I used to do a lot more. So one of I was working on this, guys. One of my things is intellectual learning, so focused growth in the areas that I teach. Because even though I have a certain perspective, I always want to be like seeing other things. But these are some resources that I have learned from and gleaned from in the past. So Getting to It is a great book by Jones, Laughlin, and Todd Musich. Essentialism by Greg McKeown is probably the #1 book that I recommend all the time. If you've not read it yet, do it. Or wait till next quarter, because it's going to be next quarter's recommended reading. Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg is really good in just understanding like how things become a habit. So how we can, if we've got a bad habit, how we can change that. And it's all about a trigger, an action, and a reward, and how those things pair together. So it's really good. Single Tasking by Devorah Zach. It's a super quick read. But it is also really fantastic because multitasking is a myth. We can't do two things at once, right? We jump from back and forth from one thing to another. So, and that is called task switching, and that takes up brain space and energy. So it's really a big waste of time to try to do two things at once because we just go back and forth. The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan is a fantastic book about focusing on one thing. So that's like, rather than doing 5 projects and moving them all a little bit, do one thing and get it done and do it really well. Anything Laura Vanderkam has written, specifically 168 Hours, that's always recommended reading when it comes to scheduling. I Know How She Does It and What the Most Successful People Do are both other really good books that are kind of tie into the same. Chasing Slow by Aaron Lochner. And that's all about just like simplifying our life. Like rather than getting caught up in this busy cycle, like let's just slow down. Anything by the Minimalists. I am not a minimalist in terms of items in my home. I'm trying to be really intentional and I keep getting rid of stuff as I go, but I'm not a true minimalist. But I am in terms of schedule and activities. That is where, but they've got books. They have a documentary on Netflix that's really great. And they also have a podcast, Getting Things Done. So you might have heard, if you've done any research in the time management field, you might have heard of the Getting Things Done framework. So this is David Allen. He does have a podcast called Getting Things Done. So it's basically like, I have a modern planner framework that is like prioritize, plan, act, adjust that I teach all the time. So Getting Things Done is the name of his framework that he teaches. And it's a very specific way. I find it a little bit too regimented. I don't think it works for a lot of people, but it also doesn't work for a lot of people. And so that's why I try to keep everything that I teach a little bit more open, because I think if something's too regimented, it doesn't always fit with everybody. But he's got some great stuff, great resources. Brian Tracy is another person. He's got multiple books. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Happier podcast by Gretchen Rubin. She does a lot of research and stuff. And then Laura Casey. So she does Power Sheets. So her blog and just her Instagram is a really positive thing. So that was the list I put together in like 10 minutes from some of the stuff that I've read. So I will add that when I do the replay post. I'll just add it as a comment or like in the body so that you guys have the list. So, okay. Sorry. I totally missed. There was a bunch of, if I fly to Canada, can we go for coffee? Yes. If any of you, some of you are in Kitchener, but like Faith's in Toronto, Irene is up north. If you guys are ever in Kitchener, just let me know. 20 minutes. Haley was thinking 20 minutes too. 15 is pretty short, but I do agree 30 minutes depending on business owner. But yet at the same time, that's another person that I'm able to influence and help them for a whole 3 months. So 30 minutes of my time to chat. I mean, it probably is easier in my schedule to do 20 and have some buffer on either side with other calls, but yeah, totally. Okay, so those are the resources that I had to share. Are there any other questions that people have? I think we covered a ton today. Thank you guys for interacting and being so active. It always makes these calls way more fun. P.S. Our next planning party is we're going to be introducing the next group of people are going to be joining us, which is crazy. So our dynamic, we do 3 months with the same group of people, but the last one is always we add our newbies. So yeah, it's on March 23rd. So it's interesting. Did you notice as you were going through and planning March that the days and the dates are the same as February? Did you notice that? Yeah. So Friday, March 23rd is our monthly planning party. And that's it's one day after the doors close. So that's everyone's first introduction to the quarterly is planning the month of April together. So we'll have lots of new people. So please be gracious. because we will go through the process a little bit slower than we usually do. But yeah, as we get everybody on. So perfect. Thank you guys.